Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to be making a recipe that I have been preparing for I swear it's been about a year because I had some problems finding some of the ingredients and eventually I found them, and then it's a recipe that's going to take a little while and it involves frying, and so it just never happened during the summer last year, and now finally it's going to happen. We're going to be making orange chicken wings from Mr. Ju's in Chinatown by Brandon Ju and Tianlan Ho. And this is, it says that it's 2 hours. Oh, active time is only 1 hour and 15 minutes only, but the chicken wings are brined and there's a sauce and there's like a little salad thing to go with it. And so it just seems very, very daunting, but we're going to do it. So the first thing we have to do is actually brine our chicken wings. So we're going to start the brine. I have some water here, no problem. We're going to add kosher salt. I've already pre-measured everything. Just a little bit of regular white granulated sugar. And then here are the spices. We have some coriander seeds, whole, fennel seeds, whole, and 2 star anise pods. And these are going to go in here. And now we're going to, over high heat, we are going to bring this to a boil, basically just until the salt and the sugar are fully dissolved. It doesn't say to boil it for any length of time. I don't know how much of those herbs will be in there because we're going to strain it after that. So let me get this boiled, fully dissolved, and we'll show you what we're going to do next. It took about 5 minutes for this to come to a boil over high heat. And now I have a fine mesh strainer over a large bowl, and we're going to strain out all of those seeds and pods that we put in there. It didn't feel like there was a whole lot of time, so I did let it come to a full boil. Just because I didn't know if there's, I figured that it would take some time for the seeds and maybe the temperature for the seeds and stuff to give a little bit of flavor to the brine. But, it looks, you can kind of see, it looks like, let me get that last seed. Ooh, that's hot. Last seed. Well, okay. So you can see that it's taken on a little bit of a golden color. So I assume it's got some flavor from all of that and all the seeds in there. Smells a little bit like it, not super much like it, but I did bring it up to a full boil, about 5 minutes total. And now I'm just going to rinse this out because we're going to use this pot for another thing, but we can discard these. But this needs to come back to room temperature before we can put the chicken in, because we don't want to start cooking the chicken and we don't want to have any of the bad germs, bacteria, any of that to grow on the chicken. So I'm just gonna move this to the side while we deal with our chicken. I don't know how long that's going to take to come to room temperature, but it seems like it'll be a while. But we're going to deal with our chicken wings, and I'm just going to put them back into this bowl after I'm done with them. These are whole chicken wings. You can buy them pre-separated if you'd like, and that's fine. I've got a bag because I'm going to save the tips, and I'm going to put them in the freezer. And then anytime I have little bits of chicken to use for stock, like when I spatchcock a chicken and I take out the backbone, I'll put that in here. The neck, if I buy a whole chicken, the neck or any of those parts that I don't want to use at that time, I'll put in this bag in the freezer, and eventually I'll have enough for a whole batch of stock. fact, I have one already in the other freezer. So I need to make a batch of stock, but I think there's plenty in that one. So I'm going to start a new one. So we're going to just cut the wingtips off and cut these into flats and drums and just put them back into the bowl. Gotten all of the chicken cut. I'm going to wash my hands and put this in the freezer, take my cutting board away, make sure my surfaces are clean, and my brine is still steaming, so I'm probably going to stick the chicken in the refrigerator while we wait for that to come to room temperature. It's still very, very hot. See, I like the recipes where you start with about half the water and then you add ice at the end because that cools it down really quickly. That is not this recipe. You could do it that way, however, because it will not be hard. It would not be hard at all to dissolve all that in half of the water. And this is just going to take forever to get back down to room temperature because it is still steaming. Anyway, we do have another thing we have to do at this point. We're making an orange sauce. I don't have everything all ready yet, but you guys can just follow along. So I've got the same pot, just rinsed, a new knife and a new cutting board. And let's see, we're going to start with some rice vinegar. That is a lot of rice vinegar, and I cannot buy it in this quantity in one container locally. I mean, I probably could somewhere, but I did not have access to that for today. And that was something I was not actually too worried about. There are other things that were much more difficult to find. So let me go get another ingredient. This is rice wine, not rice vinegar. So I'm going to hope I have enough of this because I have been using stuff from this. I think it'll be enough. That is so lucky. I had exactly the right amount. This recipe is like totally one of the hardest ones for me so far to get everything, and that I have not realized that I needed so much of some of the things. So that's been difficult. Anyway, so we're just adding all of this, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Into our pan. Next, this is orange sauce, so I need oranges. We're going to start with these ones. And this is supposed to be fresh orange juice, not the stuff from a bottle. That is close to enough. We're going to check. For some reason, we need to strain this, even though we're going to strain the end result, but whatever. I'm going to go ahead and strain it as requested at this point. Oh yeah, not enough yet. I'm going to go ahead and dump all this pulp in there, so maybe get a little bit more from that. I'm going to try another half first. That should be good. not going to bother too much with, worrying about not getting every little bit of pulp out. Because like I said, we're straining this again. We're going to add that to our sauce pan. And now I will be needing oranges again, so I will just save that half for another step. We've got some honey. Please excuse, oops, luckily that's not open. It's from several different kinds of honey, because that was another thing that I was like, I don't have enough. I thought I had plenty, but I did not. I did have several different containers of honey, including some honey cream, which is, I think, is just kind of whipped honey. But anyway, that would have to do. All right, I don't like to measure a whole cup in this one because it's kind of iffy. Oh, it's already open. That's embarrassing. So this is brown rice syrup. I found it at a local Asian market, and we need quite a lot of it, but I know I have enough of it because I hadn't opened it yet. All right, so that's going in as well. I love these plunger style measuring cups for stuff like honey and syrup. It's great. Okay. Easiest one of which will be garlic. We need quite a lot of it, but it just has to be coarsely chopped. So I'm going to remove this, put it somewhere else, and basically just take all the skin off of this. Now, I've tried the trick where you sort of shake it in a bowl or a jar to try to get the paper off, and it didn't work for me. If it works for you, that would be great when you need to do this much garlic. So now we've got probably a little more than it calls for, but I don't care about that. Not enough to make a difference, in my opinion. There we go. Garlic. Now my ginger was frozen, but I've had it out long enough that it cuts okay. And we're just, again, coarsely chopping this ginger. Okay, that'll be fine. And I'm just going to dump all of this in there. Okay, so I've got one more ingredient, and I have to do a little bit more preparation for that. So I'm going to clean all of this up a bit. This is cooling off a little. Not quite room temperature, but much cooler than it was. So let me clean up a little bit, and I'll show you our last ingredient for this orange sauce. So I have some habanero chilies. We are supposed to take the seeds out of these, but I am not going to cut them without wearing gloves. And my hands are damp, so they're going to be kind of annoying to put on, but that's okay, because I do not want to touch these and then touch my eyes or anything else, any other sensitive bits, because I know that will hurt. These are very spicy peppers. So the orange sauce is going to go on the outside of the wings. So we're definitely going to try the sauce and see if we think the kids will have a problem with it before we sauce all of the wings. But For right now, we are definitely going to use the habaneros, excuse me. There is no accent on that N because I don't think it would be the same without them. And we are already taking out the seeds. So I'm going to take out as much of the membrane and make sure I get all the seeds out. And then they are just going in, not whole, but halved, but without chopping them at all. I do expect this to be spicy even without the seeds, but habanero has a nice flavor as well. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to put all of this in my sink and clean up before I take these off. Get this in the trash. I'll have to clean up the floor as well. Don't want the dog to get that. So now we have all of the ingredients for our orange sauce, and we are going to bring this up to a simmer over medium heat. I'm going to watch it because the honey and the brown sugar syrup are all on the bottom, but we are supposed to cook this for, we are supposed to cook this for about 2 hours until it is reduced and to the consistency and color of warm molasses. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to go put this on the heat, and then I'm going to check to see. I think we're going to have to do something about this because it's still not quite room temperature, I don't think. It's a little above room temperature. So instead of putting ice in my bowl, I've got some ice water in a larger bowl. And these are both metal, so they will transfer the heat pretty well. But I'm going to just stir this for a little while until the brine has chilled. And I feel safe putting the chicken in it. Just a couple minutes of that, and I would call that room temperature. I'm going to remove this from the bath. Like almost all of the ice has melted from the ice bath that I created. So that's good. I'm not going to need this anymore. I'm going to just put my chicken in here. Both of my hands are going to be chickeny, but that's okay. We just want to make sure that this is all covered. There we go. So there we go. We have our chicken wings in the brine. We're going to cover this with plastic wrap, and it needs to go into the refrigerator for at least 2 hours or up to 3 days. So I could have done this in advance. I think we're going to eat tonight. So I'm going to wash my hands, get this in the refrigerator, and we'll see you back here probably in about 2 hours when that sauce is done. This has been on the stove for 2 hours, but I don't think it's reduced anywhere near enough. It still seems very thin, not anywhere near molasses in my opinion. But I did turn it down because I tried to just keep it at a simmer, and I think we really should have just kept it at medium heat the whole time. So it's been back up to medium heat for about an hour. I'm going to try another half an hour and see where we are at that point. I'll keep an eye on it though, because I don't want to overdo it or burn it. So we'll let you know how long this takes. Okay, so excuse my really loud refrigerator. This has been going for another 30 minutes, and I think it is so almost there. It gets to a point where it doesn't even stop boiling while I'm stirring. And I put a little bit on this plate and let it cool, and it's pretty thick. So when it's cool, it's pretty thick. I'm going to let it go for, I don't know, a couple more minutes. But I think we're just about there, honestly. And then I'm going to strain it into this bowl. Sadly, I only have a really big strainer currently clean. Strain out the solids. And then we've decided we're going to have these tomorrow because the chicken can brine for up to 3 days. So we're going to leave it in there overnight, and we can just refrigerate this sauce. Yeah, if you see at this point, it won't stop boiling while I'm stirring. Anyway, so we can refrigerate the sauce for, I think he says up to a week, but we'll just have it tomorrow. So seeing that, cooler sauce, yeah, I like that better. I think that's pretty much done. So total time 2.5 hours after it came up to a boil. Total time probably about 3 hours, given that, because it took it quite a while to come up to a boil at medium heat. So that's where we are now. We will see you tomorrow for the rest of this recipe. We still have a vinaigrette. We have to fry some chicken and make a little salad with the vinaigrette. So we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, it's now the next day because we decided to let the wings brine overnight. And we're ready to finish our orange chicken wings. And it's time to make a chard, I think they call it. I'm annoyed because the instructions are on this page, but the ingredients are on this page. Yes, we're making a charred orange vinaigrette. So I have some 1/4 inch-ish slices of navel orange, no seeds, that I'm going to char on both sides. I have a stainless steel skillet, and I'm hoping it doesn't completely just stick. It says about 2 minutes per side on medium-high heat. So I'm going to put that on medium-high heat, char those up, and then come back over here and show you what they look like. So this is what they look like. A little bit of blackness, a little bit of brown. I assume that's kind of what they're supposed to look like. My pan was very black, so I put some water in it, and we're gonna let that soak on the stove and heat it up if necessary and scrape that off. So what we're supposed to do now is let these cool and then mince them. So while we're waiting for those to cool, I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the stuff in this bowl. I'm going to turn the page. Oh, that's annoying. Okay. So we have some more rice vinegar, and you don't want the seasoned, you just want the natural, because the seasoned has like sugar and salt in it, I think. So we're not going to, we just have natural. We have some fresh orange juice, and I'm hoping it's enough. And I'm not going to, it is almost perfect. Maybe there's a little extra. It's okay. So we need some neutral oil. Yes. So I'm using grapeseed oil, as I often do, and this is just the rest from where I measured and almost emptied out my container for the frying part. So I'm just going to measure it here and put the rest in with the frying oil, because I don't need a little bit for anything else. And we also need a little bit of salt. Not a whole lot, really. And these are fennel seeds that I have just crushed in my mortar and pestle. I just put some in there, and now I'm going to try to fit them into the... It's hard to scoop all that in there. So some of them are a little bit smaller than others. It'll be okay. There we go. So that's the same kind of fennel seed that we used in the brine, I believe. right? So all we have to do is mince these up. They're cooler now. So I'm just going to, it's good enough for me. And in this goes. Whisk it up. And we can put this in the refrigerator just to save it until we're ready for it a little bit later. So I'm going to do that, clean up my station, and get started on the wings. Now it's time to make our dredge, which will become our batter, I'm pretty sure. So basically we make a dredge, we fry the wings, we toss the wings in it, fry them one time in that. And then we take some of that, mix water, make a batter, dip those, and fry them again. So this is going to be a thing. But so I'm going to measure all of this with a scale, just because it's so much easier, especially in these types of containers. Oh, there we go. So I will have to say that this is the part where I had the most problems finding things. So this one was really easy to find. This is, he calls it a short grain glutinous rice flour, such as mochiko, like this. So let's go ahead and measure that. Okay, there we go. This is the one that I had a hard time finding. So I'm not sure that this is exactly what he asks for. He says he wants long grain glutinous rice flour. So couldn't find that locally. Couldn't even find it on like Amazon or anything. Nothing that says it is that. So this is what I could find. So I'm going to assume it had one of the symbols was correct as far as what's on here. It was almost right. So I just don't know. But we're going to go with it, and it's going to be fine. And I'm going to get scissors to open this. Hopefully if it's right. If it's not, please tell me. But it's what I could find. So that's what we're going with. He does say that they each bring a different property to it. I'm not going to go back and read it right now for you guys, but yeah. So that's why he calls for both types. They look different. Oops, that's a little bit too much. That's better. Honestly, I'm sure it would be fine, even with, a few grams too much. It's okay. And next, we're going to add some cornstarch. Right? I'm just making sure. So we need... I gotta be careful here because I certainly couldn't get some of this out. Put too much in. I would not have any idea. So probably be easier to measure them separately, but it is what it is. Okay, so now we just have to mix this up with a whisk. There we go. So I'm going to put my stuff away because I shouldn't need this anymore. So I'm going to put all of this away, figure out how I'm going to close this up. This kind of janky setup for my first fry that don't need to go in the oven. I have my oven preheated to warm and hold. He says about 200 degrees. I think that's about what it is. And I'm going to put this one, which is a little bit better, in the oven for the fully finished chicken wings. So after the second fry, they're going to go in here. And I'm heating up my oil. It's pretty deep in a Dutch oven, so it should hold its heat pretty well. We're going to go for 375 degrees, I believe. Yes, 375 degrees. And we're ready for the wings. This is going to be a thing. Here are the wings that have been in the brine all night for a whole day. Just brought it out of the refrigerator, and we were supposed to drain these. I'm just going to scoop them out with this, put them in here, in this bowl. There we go. So the goal is to toss about a third of these at a time in the dredge. Put them in here, shake all the rest back in here, then put them on the plate to be fried. My oil is nowhere near at the right temperature yet, but we're going to get started with this. So it's going to be super messy. Okay. So there, these have their first dredge. I decided about 6 was the right number for one go. Okay, I'm going to leave these right here for now because this plate is pretty full. Check my oil again. I am going to start working on my batter because what I need to do is measure a certain amount of this to keep, and the rest is we don't need anymore. Okay, let's hope we have enough. Okay. So I'm going to drop this in another bowl just because I want to use the same bowl, and just in case. Just in case I end up needing a little bit more, I have it. So this is supposed to be this card. I'll put it somewhere else. Now, another thing he tells me that I don't have to do until later is warm up my orange sauce. I'm going to get that with the lid on in this, just on very low heat to warm up. He says to do this toward the end when you're frying the last batch. I'm just going to go ahead and get it going because I know it's going to take my stove a while at the low heat to warm it up. So I'm going to put it in here, put a lid on, just leave it there the whole time. I'm going to start putting stuff in here because I don't want it to get too hot while we're getting the other one ready. So I'm going to drop in a few pieces because my oil hit the right temperature. This is a really hot fry. That is really called for. So this is very loud. I'm so sorry. But this is just to set the dredge. So, and he says 3 to 4 minutes. So I'm going to kind of keep, and it won't be brown and it won't be done. But we're going to go ahead and do all of our batches and try to keep an eye on the temperature. Yes, you probably need to keep it at medium high. It did drop down quite a bit when I added the chicken, but that's okay. It's to be expected. So I'm just keeping an eye on time right now. And it looks like for this, for my pan, for everything, it'll be about 5 to 6 pieces. So I'll have 4 batches where he says 3 batches. But that's okay. It came down quite a bit. So I'm gonna call these done. They actually starting to get a little bit brown. So they have a nice, it looks like a nice crispy, crunchy crust starting there. I'm going to leave it at the medium-high heat. I'm going to put some more in here. And I'm going to let it heat up a little bit more and get the rest of my chicken. Another 3 or 4 minutes. About time for another batch. I should probably let this come up to temperature a little bit more. I'm chopping my fennel prawns and I'm going to put them in the big bowl with the rock salt and the rest of the dredge that I measured. So we're going to give this a couple minutes. That's going to be good enough for me for right now. So this should be our last batch on the first fry. Okay, we're just about there. I'm going to go ahead and add the water to my dry ingredients and whisk it up so it'll be ready because we're going to need it in just a couple minutes. So luckily these can hold a little bit, but I have my oil coming back up to temperature. I'm going to dip you know, my usual batch. Toss these in there. Yeah, sure. And then I'm gonna need another. And then we're gonna fry them with the batter. There we go. That's good. More tongs. More tongs. All right. So these are going to go in the batter and they're going to fry until they're done. And I have not checked to see like how long that should take. I should do that. 5 to 6 minutes, golden brown and cooked through, and then they go into the oven at 200 degrees or keep warm, and hopefully they will keep warm. Phew. It's going to take me a little while to get everything else ready. Let me just say. Okay, we're at 6 minutes. I have my helper in the background, but we're going to take these out. They look golden brown to me, like they'll be done. I'm calling those done. They seem super crispy. I'm hoping for delicious. There you go. There we go. Back in the oven. There we go. And we have 3 more batches of that to do. But yeah. Okay. I'm sure this has been long enough. I've been busy cleaning up. Yeah. These look good. I'm going to get them out using 2 hands this time, and luckily I have space. All right, I'm going to turn that off and then move this off of the heat. Help it cool down a little faster. Put these back in the oven. All right, I need to check this to see if it is at all warm enough. Basically just warm, which is probably fine for what we need it for. So messy. Oh my goodness. Okay. We need to move you guys around again. Last thing, we have the fennel that my assistant shaved for us using the mandolin. We have our charred orange vinaigrette. I'm going to dress that with as much as I think it needs. He gives a measurement, but I'm not going to measure it because I don't really care. You can tell sometimes that when I start just being done, and I really hate frying, and I am just about done with this recipe. Luckily, we are just about done and able to eat. So I'm going to put a little bit more of this on there. And then I'm going to taste it. Taste orangey. I think that'll be good. And then we need a few garnishes. So I'm going to slice up some green onions, thinly sliced. All right. And then we have a jalapeno. I'm supposed to thinly slice into rounds and take the seeds out. So taking the seeds out after it's thinly sliced is going to be a problem. All right, so there we go. I'm going to clean up again. So I'm going to get some in here. We're going to toss them with that orange sauce we made yesterday, and that's been heating on the stove. Put a few on here in the bowl. Put some sauce on it. And there we go. There's our wings. Let's plate them up. All right. Could put more sauce in there if I felt it needed it. There we go. Plate these up with a little bit of our slaw that I probably should have put on the plate first. But that's all right. There we go. And garnish with some green onions. And a few pieces of fresh jalapeno. And there you have it, orange wings that took 2 days to make. It really didn't, but you know, it took a long time. So we'll be back in just a second to let you know if we think it was all worth it. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make orange chicken wings from Brandon Ju and Tien Lan Ho's Mr. Ju's in Chinatown. That's it. First, they were delicious. The batter was super crispy. It was fried perfectly. They were all done. They were, done all the way through with the 2 fries and the second. Some of the batches seemed to fry pretty fast, but they were all done enough. That was good. They were all, the meat was juicy. The batter was crispy. It had good flavor. It was not spicy. So I was a little concerned about the habanero peppers in the sauce and the Sichuan peppercorns in the wok salt. I was afraid it might get a little too spicy. The kids did not complain at all. If you have a low tolerance for spice, it does kind of build a little bit. So after like 3, I could tell that, my mouth felt a little like there was spice, but it was never overwhelming. It was just right. As long as you didn't eat the fresh jalapenos that were on the top as a garnish. They were great. Will I ever make them again? Unlikely. So the active time being 1 hour and 15 minutes is a complete lie. Maybe in the restaurant setting where you have a big fryer and you can do all of that in like one batch. I mean, if you think about it, frying, I had to do 4 batches. And each batch is about 10 minutes because the first fry is like 3 to 4 and the second fry is, 5 or 6. So that's 40 minutes right there, not even counting in between times and letting the oil come back up to temperature. So that was a long time. Now, the sauce took a little bit longer to reduce for me, but that was probably partially my fault for turning it down when he didn't say, but when he says to put it at a simmer, I kind of didn't want it to be a full boil, which it was at medium heat on my stove. Anyway, it took a really long time. It was super messy. It used a lot of bowls and equipment, just general kitchen equipment so there was a lot of cleanup. Plus, you know, the general frying is very messy to begin with. I'm not sorry I did it. And if I really wanted to impress someone, I would make these because they were delicious, impressive. I don't think I've ever had a chicken wing quite like this. I loved them. Probably won't make them again. I generally just bake chicken wings when I make them at home, and there are ways that you can bake them to make the skin crispy enough that it's okay. It won't be ever quite like this, but now I have some leftover sauce that I will probably put in the freezer, and you can always put that on, toss nuggets in that, or chicken wings that you buy from the grocery store that are, you know, all you have to do is heat in the oven, you know, make it a little bit nicer. Anyway, if you decide to make this, please tell me what you think of the recipe in the comments down below. Share this with your friends. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe and come back and watch me make something else next week.